All right, welcome back to the After the License channel. I'm your host, Jeff Bittner. We have another interview for you today. We have Ian from Indianapolis. Welcome, Ian. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, it's funny. I messaged you. I messaged you out of the blue because I
Yeah,
saw some of the creative stuff you were doing on
yeah,
Instagram Reels and property tours. I know you're
yeah,
a 23-year-old agent out in Indianapolis, and so I'm
yes.
excited to kind of hear about some of your social media stuff. But why don't we first just kind of tell the audience, like, how did you get into real estate? I know you've been doing this for 2 years. Like, what
Yep.
was the draw? Why'd you get in the industry? How's it been going so far?
Yeah, so I was in college at IUPUI actually, and it was my junior year, and I was like, okay, I'm a marketing major. I got to figure out what I want to do with my life. I knew I wanted some sort of freedom. I did not want to be tied down to a desk 24/7. And that was really the driving factor. I wanted to be able to get out and do things, kind of not be tied down by anything, not sort of have any sort of schedule, and have the freedom to work as hard as I can to succeed as much as I can. So that was kind of the driving force. And I walked through a house that had been renovated one day, and because I had seen the before and I walked through when it was finished, I was like, okay, this is really, really cool. So I knew I wanted to do something in real estate, and at first I was like, investing. I really want to get into investing. That's still my long-term goal, but I realized that takes a lot of capital, that takes a lot of connections. You have to know a lot of different things. So I emailed 5 or 6 different companies in Indianapolis that did some sort of investing as well as just were brokerages, and I was like, hey, I'm a 20-year-old in college. Please, I'm interested in real estate. Please take me on. And FS Houses, the company that I work for, they're actually were the only ones that responded. I came in for an interview. It was very casual. And Ashley and Ryan graciously enough just let me come on, and we're like, hey, you can start with doing some rentals with us. And from there, it's kind of compounded on each other. I got my license like you said 2 years ago, but I didn't really start doing any sort of being a traditional real estate agent, helping clients sell and buy houses until this year, just because last year with COVID and everything happening, I kind of took
Tough
more.
year.
I took over all of their social media for them, so I'm their manager for their social media accounts. I worked a lot with their rentals to start with, like I said before, as well as their property management. So I have my hands in a lot of different things in real estate, and it's been good to see all different sides. So we've helped investors. I make budgets for all of the properties that we rehab. So from the ground up, basically, I'm kind of in that process, and I just really got involved in real estate. And so I was like, okay, now I kind of have my finger on it. Let's start helping some different clients. So this year, I think I've only done roughly 6 deals, just because I do a bunch of other stuff for the company as well. But I'm loving it. I really am.
That's great. And 6 deals is good. And I think so often, we try and put a number on certain things and
Right.
timelines. And at the end of the day, what I love about real estate is you can kind of decide what success looks like, and
Yep.
you can decide, how do you want to work this thing, and
Right.
doing some of the social media stuff and doing some of the property management stuff. So I think that's fantastic. How do you feel like the property management and doing rentals, like helping people with
Hmm.
rentals, you feel like that set you up for success when you actually went to go help
Yes.
clients buy and sell?
You doing that as much as I did in the beginning really gave me a finger on the pulse of what really people were looking for in homes a lot of times when it came to rentals, and it kind of translates into over, okay, so my clients are looking for this is what most people have said. And it also helps, like, oh, I walked through a couple clients through houses, and they were like, oh, I want to do some renovations. And off the top of my head, I was like, okay, I know this is going to cost roughly this, just because I did that repetitively. And so it definitely helps just getting a feel of, especially the city that I'm in Indy. I'm from Southern Indiana, so I moved up here for school. And even after living here for 3 years for school, I didn't feel like I knew the city very well. And so being able to do rentals, figure out which neighborhoods were hot, which neighborhoods weren't so hot, really, really helped. Now that I'm talking to actual clients, what they're buying, I'm like, okay, this neighborhood has a lot of investors in it. If you're looking for a property that is going to increase in value rapidly, you should probably look in this part of town versus you're just looking for something more secure. I know exactly where to take you. And so that really helped when it came to kind of the value of a home and what potential clients were looking for.
And I think that's just good advice all around. I tell new agents, even if you don't have clients or you don't have renters, like
Right.
go tour houses, like go just walk vacant homes,
Yeah.
because like you said, you start to pick up on, okay, this is the nice tile that everybody likes. And the homes that
Yes.
have this
Yes.
tile, like,
Yeah.
jump off the market. And the ones that are
Right.
outdated 10 to 15 years, you can
Hmm.
spot them instantly. And you're like, these aren't so hot, right? Like,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
start to get a feel for things and what the price is. So I think
Hmm.
that's awesome. And being young and really anyone starting out, I think it's a good, not everyone has to jump into rentals or property management or doing work
Right.
for a brokerage to start out. But for those that want to, I think it's a great path to kind of get their feet wet and kind of figure out, okay, this is what it's like to actually, kind of manage my own schedule and work with
Exactly.
clients and all
Yeah.
of that fun stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're now, so you're managing your brokerage's social
Mhm.
media, but I know you do your own social media stuff. So I want to get
Yes.
into the 60
Sure.
second. So
Yeah.
how did that come about? Like, when did the first one happen? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it was either January or February of this year. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, it's time for me to start kind of digging in. I need to do things on my own a little bit and kind of build my own brand, and realizing that FS Houses has done so much for me. I need to start being able to give back to them in a way. And so I was like, I need to build who I am. And my Instagram presence was not very large. Never really has been. I've never really been a social media person. So social media, I have a love-hate relationship for it. On a
Yep.
personal level, I despise social media. I think it's a huge waste of time. It's too easy to scroll. It's too easy to get lost in a rabbit hole. But when it comes to business, I've kind of been able to see, through school, we did a lot with that. And then just kind of in the business world itself, it's not that difficult to get a lot of eyes on something through social media. Um, you're a big inspiration for a lot of the stuff I'm doing recently. Actually, I posted my first reel today, and within 10 minutes, it had like 5,000 views, something ridiculous like that. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy. I need to start doing this more. But the 60-second tours really just, I was like, okay, I want to. First of all, I love doing camera work. I love taking pictures. I love making videos. And it's all just been kind of for myself and then for the company. I was like, how can I take this skill that I've been really working on for a couple of years at this point and make it into something potentially profitable? And I think the best way to do that was to do house tours. So there's a couple agents in Indy that do somewhat similar things. I reached out to one of them. I was like, hey, can we meet for lunch one time? And I bought him coffee and we just talked for an hour about him being an agent. He was also a little bit of a younger agent. And so he gave me some really good advice and just really was really encouraging. And we've actually been friends kind of ever since. But I was like, okay, I like what he's doing. He posts Instagram stories walkthrough of houses, 3 to 4 a week. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I was like, but that's not my style. So how can I make it my own? And I haven't seen anybody else before or since really do what I'm doing with the 60-second tour thing, and the style that I'm doing it. I don't like to talk through the houses or talk through the specific, this house has this kind of flooring or is this square foot. I think there's a time and a place for that. But kind of what my goal is to show, look, there are these beautiful houses out there. Let me show you guys what it can be done. And it's going to translate really well into, let me list your house. Let me show you for free what I can bring to the table. It's not going to charge you any extra. I can do all the drone footage. I can do all the video. I can do all the photo. I can do everything on my own. And I think that's kind of a very unique skill set that a lot of agents maybe don't have or don't have time to craft. And so I was like, this is kind of my niche, and I've really honed in on it. I've done a video a week every Friday at noon, and I'm at 22 episodes this Friday. Or I guess, yeah, this Friday will be episode 22. So yeah, it's been really, really fun, and it's been fun to get better at it too. So it's kind of a hobby, making videos, and being able to combine it with something that I'm already doing to make money is really fun to do.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, and what you really figured out early on, and what I loved helping agents with is you can combine whatever your passion is,
Yes.
and if
Yeah.
it's something creative like photography or
Hmm.
videography, even better. But
Right.
you can combine whatever your passion is, and you can spin it into a real estate career. I've
Yes.
I've seen
Yep.
people who love golf and
Yeah.
they're the golf guy, right? Or
Mm,
fishing,
yeah.
and they go
Yeah.
and tour houses or talk about houses that are near fishing
Yeah.
lakes or whatever.
Yep.
You can tell I'm a big fisher, fishing lakes.
Yeah.
But it's so smart to kind of figure out what do you like, what's not work for you. And if
Hmm.
it's in that creative realm, it's a really easy translation to then go and take something like 60-second house tours. And with
Yeah.
social media today, it's just a beautiful marriage. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. How long have you been into photography? Like, is that something you've always kind of been interested in on the side, or?
No, so my mom always made fun of me as a kid because I would come home from school and my best friend at the time, he was the exact same age as me. We'd come home and I would have my piece of colored paper and be like, "Hey, mom, look what I colored." And it was all, there was nothing was in the lines. It was just scribbled all over the place. And his would be perfectly in the lines, perfectly colored, shaded just right. And I've never had an artistic ability to anything with my hands. I'm very bad at drawing, coloring, anything like that. But I've always been able to see what I want it to be. So like I can visualize what I want something to be, but I've never been able to create it myself until I found this outlet. So video has kind of just been an ability for me to be like, okay, this house is beautiful and I think I know what I want it to look like. And I don't have to do anything myself except hold a camera around and then edit it. And it's a skill for sure that you definitely have to work on. And I've really only been doing video for about a year and a half now. But it's something that I've really just kind of clicked with and found a passion for. And it makes it a lot easier to learn something when you're passionate about it. I mean, I would spend, when I first was getting started, I would probably spend 4 to 5 hours a day watching YouTube videos on how to shoot, what are different settings for your video, what kind of gimbal should I get, what kind of camera should I get, what kind of lens should I get. And I had other friends that were kind of in the same field that were marketing. Actually, the co-host of my podcast, The Hustle Indie Show, Brendan, he was a big inspiration for me because he did a lot of video. And his style isn't necessarily my style, but he was able to, hey, I don't know what to do with this setting. He was able to
Yeah.
answer it for me. So I had a lot of help for sure. I definitely didn't do it all on my own, but I do have a passion for it, and it's helped a lot.
And that makes it fun too, right?
It
It's not
does.
work when
Yes.
you enjoy
Yes.
it, and it's not a chore to go out and learn those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good lesson in itself too, which is with any of this stuff, I've been putting videos out now for After the License for, coming up on a year, but the first
Okay.
videos were just my camera webcam.
Right.
People always
Right.
ask like, what's the right, what's the right camera? What's the right microphone? It's like, just start
Yeah.
with what you have and learn and, watch the YouTube videos and,
Hmm.
start from square one and just kind of go from there. And
Yeah.
it grows over time. You get
Yes.
better over time.
Yeah.
And that's part of everything, right? That's part of the
Yeah.
craft of it.
And that's what
So
makes it fun is being able to, I actually yesterday was scrolling back and I was like, okay, I need to watch what my old videos were. And I was just like, oh, these are not very good. Like I did not think they were at the time. I was like, oh, these are amazing. But looking back, I was like, man, I have progressed quite a bit. And being able to see that in this form is really entertaining. But you actually said something on a reel you posted today that I thought was valuable that I struggle with is I'm very much a perfectionist on what I post. And that's where I fall short. So I like to post, whether it's a picture on Instagram or a video, it has to be mint. It really does. And I starting out now, I'm realizing I gotta kind of break that habit in a way, especially when it comes to the FS Houses real estate page as well. It's like we just need to get content out there. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. So I'm still figuring that out, and I don't know how to break that habit necessarily because I just love it to look so good. But I'll get there. I'll get there.
it's something we all struggle with. So I did an
Yeah.
interview with Ali Fiegel, and she talked all about that. She's kind of a social media coach, and she talks all
Hmm.
about authenticity, right? And
Hmm.
it is this weird thing that we all, but what's crazy is I go to your Instagram page and it looks perfect. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
people would pay to have your Instagram page. So
Right.
there's
Right.
and there's value in that. And so figuring out that balance, I think,
Yep.
is big. And one thing that someone told me a couple months ago, and I thought this was good advice, is maybe use your posts and maybe even your reels as like the perfect picture perfection stuff,
Yeah.
but then use the stories as
Mhm.
like more behind the scenes. Hey,
Right.
come, this is what it's like for me to shoot a house and do all that fun stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what I've started to try and do myself is, yes, not be so perfect and just kind of, hey, let's just send it. And if
Yeah.
it's valuable,
Yeah.
then if the quality isn't great, the quality isn't great, but if it's
Right.
valuable, it's valuable. But then also try and show some more of that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's something we're all struggling with, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
Part of me hates social media, but then
Yeah.
another part of me sees the value of it, and so it's this
Right.
this duality the entire
Right.
time. So you're posting these 60-second tours. What's the reaction been in your local area? Like, have you gotten leads from it, any closings from it, or just a lot of recognition, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think I've only had one or two like actual clients that went all the way through because of it. And those were just friends from college that saw what I was doing. And so it's still kind of relative to me. But outside of that, I've had quite a few people actually reach out and say, "Hey, we love what you're doing." 2 weeks ago, I had a guy that used to live on the same apartment as me. And we only met one time, but he DM'd me on Instagram. He was like, "Hey, can I shadow you when you shoot your video and edit it?" So he was with me all day long, and he just wanted to watch what I was doing. I've had a couple other people come through and just, yeah, there've been a lot of encouraging people out there, which has been really, really, it's helped me a lot. I'm very much of a I need words of affirmation kind of guy. So it's good to hear just random strangers like DM me saying I'm doing really good work. They love what I'm doing. Some people, again, I've had a few people to actually shadow me and want to watch the process. But yeah, there's been a lot of good feedback. A lot of people just kind of curious about how it's done, and wanting to get into it themselves. And once they see how much work it takes, maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's not as, I don't know, easy for them to picture once they see how much work it takes. But the result is just very satisfying to look at. And I think people really like to look at something that's satisfying.
And to have a couple closings from that, even if it's
Yeah.
people in your sphere of influence, I think
Hmm.
is really powerful. And
Yeah.
you're building a brand by
Right.
doing that stuff and doing it consistently. So
Yeah.
I think when we check in with you in a year from now, right, half of your sales are
I
going
would
to be
hope
from some
so.
of those videos. So
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And
Yeah. And
good.
sorry. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say one of the guys that actually I or not interviewed, I reached out to, and had lunch with the one day was, he just encouraged me like, look, he says all of his deals now come from Instagram. That kind of was like, okay, if that's the case, and I've seen how many closings he's done, and he's been doing it for a decent amount of time now. If I can do it in 8 months, I think it's going to pay off down the road a little bit, which is kind of what's keeping me going and trying to produce as much as I am, is being able to hear that from others that are doing kind of similar things is like, and like seeing a page like yours is like, okay, well, he has this many followers and he's posting all the time. Maybe I just need to start changing some things around a little bit.
Well, and that's it, right? It's hearing that kind of confirmation from other
Yeah.
people of have walked that path of,
Hmm.
okay, this is what this looks like if you do X, Y, and Z, and then
Yeah.
figuring out how you make that your own
Yeah.
and kind of deliver on that. So, is there anything you've learned like specifically about Instagram or Instagram Reels or your process that you want to share with people? Like, have you found that shorter videos are better or longer video? I mean, I know you do kind of 60
Yeah.
seconds, but
Yeah. So like I do a lot, everything I post because I like it, and I feel like I trust my taste pretty well. Like I see people post different types of house tours, that are 4 or 5 minutes long, and they walk through the entire house. They talk through each room. Like I was saying before, I think that's great. Um, but what my goal is just to get eyes, and then people realize what I do and just become like, okay, Ian does this, and he's continuing to do it, and he looks like he's doing something really cool when I'm just taking a video of a house, right? So it's like, for me, it's just posting something where that's eye catching and gets people's attention in the simplest way. Like, I don't need to show all the details of the house, right? Like, I don't need to go through and do everything. It's 60 seconds long. It takes a person a minute to watch and a second to click like and maybe comment something they like about the house. And I think just trying to keep it as simple as possible has been beneficial for me, um, let alone for the people watching, but also just for the creation process, not trying to overcomplicate a lot of things. Um, I definitely want to kind of get out there and try new things and create different types of videos and maybe different types of photos. I think a big thing that I'm going to start doing in the next week or so is posting more like neighborhood specific photos and videos. So like maybe a walkthrough of a neighborhood that's pretty popular around here or something like that. But kind of keeping it in my lane of what I enjoy looking at, because people seem to have responded to that pretty well.
If they respond to what you like,
Right.
then they like similar things, right? And that's kind
Hmm.
of the benefit of
Yeah.
being authentic to yourself, whether that's
Right.
being authentic on camera or just
Yeah.
having like almost an art. I think your stuff's like art. It's
Yeah.
authentic, right? And so when people
Right. Yeah.
respond to that, there's a good chance you guys align if they end up using you as a client. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and so like I've targeted, and again I've worked with investors, buying very cheap properties, and I've worked with first time home buyer and kind of everything in between. I've realized I really enjoy working with a little bit higher class homes, and I like being able to show that off. And I feel like if I continue to just stay true to that what I like, that will naturally kind of come back to me. So we'll see.
Great stuff. Do you get people who think they are your listings, or I'm guessing they're are they your company's
No.
listings or okay?
Nope, nope. So I reach out. I've had to reach out to a couple agents. I always, in the comments of every single post, has who the agent is and their brokerage as well. So I always give them credit, but no, they're not mine. If when people ask, I let them know they're not mine. I'm just trying to show off some beautiful homes in Indy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I think because a lot of people don't know. At least for me, I didn't even know what my city had to offer until I started doing this. And then I was like, oh crap, like literally 4 blocks from my house that I own is this beautiful neighborhood that I didn't know about. And so being able to do that, I'm like, I know other people will find that valuable, and being like, oh, Indianapolis has this type of home over here. Like I had no idea. And so I enjoy it again. So like, I think people have really responded to that. And there have been some people that think that. I'll always tell them, hey, this is not, this is maybe one day, not right now.
But even that subconscious, like
Hmm.
letting people know, I'm in real estate, I think is
Yep.
so powerful. I was just having a conversation with an agent here in Phoenix yesterday, and she was saying, she's having a ton of success
Mm,
with a ton of closings, but she's not posting it to social media. And she
mm,
has people who are saying, like, I know you're new. Have you closed any deals?
uh,
And then there's other agents I've talked to, and they're not doing what you're doing, but they're just taking homes that
yeah,
they think are beautiful, and they're
yeah,
just saying, hey, can I use your photos and post them on my social media? And the
hmm,
agent says yes. And
right,
people think that they're listings. And it's not a
yep,
bad thing. They're giving credit to the listing broker and to the
right,
listing
right,
agent, but it's reaffirming to people via the internet and via social media, like, hey, this is what Ian does. Ian's in real
yep,
estate. He's looking at these houses every single week and
yep,
he's promoting them. And
yeah,
whatever assumptions they want to make, it's
yeah,
on them. But I think it's all beneficial for you and your brand, which is great.
yeah, yeah. And like I when I first got into real estate, and again, I'm so young, I don't really know a whole lot, but a lot of people seem to, a lot of older agents maybe feel like it's like competition to do that kind of thing, and like, oh, you're trying to steal my kind of stuff. And I've heard that from different people, not about what I do, but just about from what other people are doing. And for me, it's like real estate's a team game. Like if I'm going to bring you a buyer for your listing, like that's huge. Or if I'm able to show off like the videos that I produce, I charge. If someone wants me to make a video of their property, I would charge a decent amount of money for that. So like what I do is valuable, and I know that. And so if an agent doesn't want me to post a high quality video of their house to show to, I mean, sometimes they get thousands of views. So if you don't want
Yep.
thousands of eyes on your property, that kind of confuses me a little bit. So, but luckily I haven't run across that problem yet.
You're right. Sometimes it's the old school agents. They kind of have that scarcity mindset, and they
Yep.
don't understand
Yeah.
Instagram reels or videos, or
Exactly. Yeah.
and they're not paying for it, so they feel like you're going to kind of one up them, and you're not even
Hmm.
representing that seller. But
Right.
so have you had people when you reached out and said, hey, I would love to do a video tour of this house? Have you had people say no?
So far, no. Luckily, no. I mean, the most they did was like, "Hey, make sure tag us not only in the post but in the comments as well." I was like, "Yeah, it's no problem. Be more than
Yeah.
happy to do that." Like my goal is just to get my name out there and show off beautiful homes. It's really that simple. And I think if any agent would have a problem with it, I think a simple conversation would kind of change their mind, especially when they maybe go and see what I've done. It's pretty obvious that it's going to benefit everybody involved.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's kind of jump to when you first, I know when you first got licensed, you did some
Mhm.
rentals, you did some
Yeah.
property management. Like, are there things or advice you have for new agents? Like, are there things you struggled with that you kind of figured out? I mean, obviously you figured out finding your passion and your
Yeah.
niche and going all in on that, but are there other things about the industry or getting your license or misconceptions you had and advice you have for other agents?
Yeah, I almost don't feel qualified to answer because I am so young at this. But um, the biggest benefit for me was finding the company that I work for and the people that I work for. Ashley and Ryan have just been extraordinary to me. Very, very patient, very kind. They're always there to answer questions. Really everyone in our office. We're not that big of an office, but anybody that has a question, there's always going to be someone that has the answer, at least know where to look, right? And so that for me has been the biggest thing, is finding those people that are willing to be a teacher. Because I mean, I've heard a lot. I mean, what is it? 85% of agents quit in the first year, some crazy statistic like that. And
Yep.
yeah, so for me, being able to be in the position that I'm in, I'm extremely grateful to them for that. And yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing, is if you can't find maybe a smaller brokerage, because a lot of people go and get on a team, or find someone that's willing to at least help you or answer your questions. Because I mean, I really feel like I don't know anything about real estate when it comes down to it sometimes. And so being able to have those people behind me, I feel very confident going in and being like, hey, I would love to help you buy a house. And what I always say is, if I don't know the answer, I have a team behind me that can help you find the answer. And are we back?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, cool.
You're saying you have a team to kind of help you find the answer, which I think is
Yeah.
it's got to be. I think that's got to be reassuring for you and also for the client, right?
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Very much so.
That's great. Anything else, like, so, you talk about being young, you're 23, like what
Mhm.
hurdles or what, what have you had to navigate kind of being a young agent? Like, have there been people who have asked you about your experience or maybe, gone to a different client because of your experience, or have you, yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the clients that I was dealing with, I was working with them. I don't like to require a buyer to sign anything saying that they're going to work with me. I
Yeah.
feel like if I do a good enough job, it'll show for itself. So I showed them houses for weeks and weeks on end. It was a lot of showings. And they're like, okay, we're going to take a couple week break. We're going to save up some more money. Everything's going off the market. It's so hot right now. I totally understand. I'll be here for when you get back. And then I get a text about 2 weeks later saying, hey, one of our agent friends just had a house that came up and showed it to us. It's like, that's cool. And so they put an offer in and they got it. So I think that was a learning experience. The lesson I learned, I don't exactly know. I think maybe being more on top of what I'm doing. I think I need to being able to create a schedule and stay on top of who you're dealing with at all times. Um, Me being paired with trying to do everything for social media for myself and my company, and then dealing with clients on top of that, is a lot. And so staying organized, I think, was the biggest thing that I still kind of struggle with sometimes, is like, I have to be able to figure out what I'm doing every single day, stay on top, send out those text messages, call those clients, send them out properties that they might be interested in. And so doing that, and then being on top of the small details too, when it comes to once you're under contract, staying on, keep those dates, know when those are coming around, and make sure you get the paperwork in before those come. That's kind of the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think in terms of those buyers, like I think it's a lesson on how the real estate industry
Yeah.
works,
Yeah.
and I think that's okay, right? You kind of have to be, I think what can really derail some agents is they just take that and they take it personally and
Yeah.
and they let it kind of affect future clients and the way they
Hmm.
treat people and their day or their week or their month. And I get it, it's tough, especially when you're first starting out where
Yeah.
a commission check, especially if you're a young guy, might be a couple months pay, right? Like,
Yes.
so
Yes. Yep.
real estate has these high highs and these low lows, but if we can focus on providing good service
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
the things we need to do on a daily or weekly basis, like the sales come, even though we have to kind of ride those highs and lows of
Right. Right.
we thought we maybe had a buyer and they ended up going somewhere else. And so
Right.
one of the toughest lessons, and it never gets easier too, right? Like
Mm. Yeah.
I still have, I still have clients that we lose out on something or they go with someone else and you're like, wow, well, I was kind of banking on that, right? We
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah.
count our chickens before they hatch. And
Right. Right.
it's just a tough piece of it. So it sounds like you're working on the organization of your
Yeah.
business. Like,
Yes.
have you learned anything through that? Like, are there any things that you found beneficial, like routines or ways you stay organized that are starting to work for you?
I'm very much of a checklist person, and I'm very much of a pen and paper kind of a person, which
Yep.
I know it's better to be digital and have things everywhere, but sometimes I really enjoy coming into the office, grabbing my little notepad, getting a pen. This is what I have to do today. This is who I need to contact. Check it off as the day goes, and then at the end of the day, this is what I got to do tomorrow. Leave it on my desk. Come back in the next day and see that there. Google Calendar has been a blessing, being able to keep organized through that. But yeah, I'm very much, I like to see my progress through the day and through the week, and whatever that may look like, whether I either have a client or I don't, things that I need to get done. I like to be able to check it off and know that I've accomplished those things. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to just being an agent working with clients, it can be kind of frustrating not to have exactly what you need at all times in front of you. Like, you don't have to necessarily do everything. It's like, okay, I should do this, right? And so putting it down on paper is like, okay, I know I need to accomplish this now because I've written it down. I need to post today because I've written it down, right? It's not like, oh, I should, or I should maybe, do this kind of. No, it's there. It's for me. I have to get it done. So that has been a big thing for me, is putting it and seeing it and physically writing it out.
I struggle with that same thing. I'm a to-do list guy too. And
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth like 5, 6 years ago. I had a whole 3-ring binder and I just had loose leaf paper. And
Yeah.
I did that same thing. And I
Right.
flipped it over and I had this like giant thing of, and I'm like, okay, I've got to go digital. So I
Right.
did like
Right.
Todoist and Wunderlist and all this stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I still have those, but now I'm back to like I just have a moleskin notebook
Yep.
that I do
Yeah.
that same thing. And it's this weird balance thing, but you have to just kind of figure out
Right.
what worked for you. And so that's been kind of my thing is I'll have like a daily checklist on my, piece of paper, but then I
Yep.
have like a Trello board of maybe some of the
Yes.
bigger
Trello is
things
great.
I'm trying to accomplish, right? Like,
Hmm.
okay, I've checked off a couple things on this Trello card and
Yeah.
I'll do the rest next week type thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're using Google Calendar for like obviously meetings, but are you doing it
Hmm.
for like time blocking as well?
Not so much. I
Okay.
typically, you mentioned Trello. I have used Trello. I need to get back kind of on that. Earlier this year, I was using it quite a bit, but Trello boards are great for me to stay organized as well. I think that is a great tip. Yeah, Trello is an
Yeah.
amazing tool.
Yeah. Well, and so if you're using Google Calendar, that's another thing I've used to kind of
Hmm.
stay organized is trying to like set reoccurring events for
Mm.
myself
Yeah.
on Google Calendar
Right.
so that, I mean, and then you can use your calendar for everything, right? You can
Yeah.
even block
Exactly. Yep.
out miscellaneous time where you're like, okay, for the
Yeah.
first 3 hours, I'm going to try and knock out my to-do list, but
For
then
sure.
I've got a lunch and a listing appointment and all that fun stuff.
Right. Right.
But it's all a journey. We all just have to kind of figure out what
Yep.
makes sense for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Last question. Any like books or podcasts you listen to that have been helpful for you along like your journey or starting out in real estate?
I listen to a lot of different types of podcasts, mostly investment kind of podcasts. Bigger
Great.
Pockets obviously is a big one. I think Flipping Junkie was another big one before I kind of got into it. But for me, the best learning tool has just been those around me. I've learned so much by just talking to people that have already done it, and figuring out, hey, so what in this situation? And we, like, in our weekly meetings, people talk about all the properties that we have going on and clients that they're working with, and they bring up these situations, and being able to be in that situation where I can ask, okay, what did you do there and why? And figuring out like the why behind why a lot of things are done. Because being new is like, okay, they're doing this, but I like, for what purpose? Like, it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. So being able to have that encouragement. But the biggest thing that's helped me a lot, both with social media and with real estate and kind of everything in between is YouTube. YouTube is probably the greatest tool ever invented. If you need to learn anything, it is there in one form or another. So it's easy to get. I'm a big daily dose of internet guy. Sometimes I sit there and watch too many of his videos, but there's so much beneficial stuff on there that's really helped me quite a bit.
I love it. Great advice. Great advice. So anything you want to promote, we'll obviously put your Instagram link in the YouTube description on the podcast. So everyone go check out your reels. Anything else?
I mean, not really. That's kind of all I have going for me right now. I do have my own podcast here in Indy. We interview a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs in Indy that start their own businesses or have been successful in one way or another. But besides that, man, I'm just eating at the bits to get new clients. So that's what this is all about.
I love it. Have you gotten any real estate clients from the Hustle Indy show?
Not directly from them. Not yet. Not yet. Yeah.
I think that's great. I talked about having a podcast for agents, and I just did an interview with the author of Niche Please. That'll actually be released next week. But he talks about having a podcast is like, he thinks the number one hack for real estate agents, because you can go and, you know, you can talk to anyone, right? Like I DM'd you and said, hey man, come on the podcast.
Exactly.
And,
yes.
I love that. So that's great.
Yeah, no, it's been really fun. I mean, for me, like, I haven't made really any money from it, but I feel like the value that I've gotten from it is worth way more than $1. Being able to hear people's stories, from artists to cryogenics entrepreneurs, everything in between, and being able to hear their stories has just been really, really encouraging. Hearing people that have been in jail and now that are very successful in a short minute, like there's a lot of good out there, and sometimes it's just important to listen. So yeah, having a podcast and being able to listen to those stories it's been really helpful.
That's great. I bet in no time you're going to be getting some clients from that thing too.
I hope so.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on. And like I said, we'll put all your links in the description.
Perfect. Thank you.
We'll have to get you on for a follow-up, maybe in a year or something.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.